How's it going? This is your old pal Kanoy here, and we're doing a song breakdown. The last couple of days I was trying to think of other things to like spice in things up, and like to send a big shout out to Mr. Jordan Kamikawa. Gave me this idea to actually run down the songs, but track by track. But because I did record and produce a lot of the whole album, I can actually break down stuff to you guys. So yeah, just wanted to share this information with you all. Keep it interesting, just kind of cruise it along and explain step by step what was going on. And yeah, here we go. So, yes, I'd like to just do a breakdown on the drums here in the beginning parts of this lovely melody song called Feeling on You. And yeah, like I said, I tried to keep myself pretty uncomfortable with this whole situation. Um, and yes, like I said, I did most of the productions and yeah, engineering and stuff like that. So here we go. Let's step into it and look at what's happening with the drums. So I have the kicks. I have two kicks here. I have two tracks of snare. Um, I have hi hats and the toms, but I made it in a group so I could glue it all together and make it sound pretty together. And then I did an overhead track. And I also did a room track, but I didn't use the room track. I just used the overhead track. It sounded really, really nice. So let's break it down. Okay. So we got this kicks here. Let's solo the kicks. I actually have it backwards. So if you look at what's going on right now, um, it says in. It's playing the in right now. I got that. Oh, just solo the in. So this is the in, but it's actually the out. So it's backwards. So it's the outside kick drum mic, and that's a Sennheiser 421. Yeah, and that's the sound of that right here. Yeah. Then we got the inside mic, which is a Bear Dynamic boundary mic. I find that it has a nice creamy top end too, so as well as the low end. So I kind of EQ'd it together, and I got it just about what? Yeah, got it about there. A little bit before 50 hertz. Yeah, so I wanted to keep that bottom end kind of still killing it on the bottom end. Okay, so that's the kicks. Snare. Let's listen to the whole snare. Yeah, and by the way, this is Jordan Kamikawa playing drums. So yes, this is his Black Beauty. He recorded his Black Beauty. We recorded his Black Beauty snare. So this is the top and the bottom of the snare. I had the microphone going right on the top. This is the top mic right here, and I gate a lot of the the drums, especially the kicks, the snares, and the toms. There's sometimes where I want artifacts of different sounds going on in the background, so I don't gate it as hard. But when you gate it, it's like kind of muting when the sound is not there, and then whenever the sound comes out, it opens up. So I got the top of the snare gated also. That is the gate right there. And then I got the bottom. This is the top. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to the bottom. Bottom sounds a little bit more thinny, but it's catching the actual snare sound. So I always like to record that. Depending on different music, like if you're doing some old school stuff, you don't really need much. Just one snare top would be fine. But when you're doing a little bit more poppier sounding songs, or like any song that has a little bit more intricacy in it, you want to record the top and the bottom of the snare, and you put it together, and it sounds like that. So that's the snares. Hi hats is pretty simple. I just kind of keep it not so loud in the mix, but I EQ a lot of the low end off, because if you don't see, check this out. I got this EQ over here. I'm gonna pull it out, and we don't really need to hear that thing. So I kind of want just the top end right there. Yeah. And I used, oh yeah, for the snare, I used 57s. Yeah. Top and bottom. Just top and bottom. I use a microphone. The hi-hat, I think I have a SM7B knockoff, which is the same mic that I use here. Yeah. Anywho, I'm a big fan of the 57s. On the DOMs, we have 57s all on the top. And I think on the low one, I have a Audix, the kick drum mic. Has a little bit more boom to it. So yeah, let's try it again. Let's listen to this part here. Okay. So let's go over here. This is the low end off of here. Check this out. So this is just the toms. And that might be in your left, but this is my right, and I'm hearing it on my right. So I pan my drums, I have it hard, and then I keep the mid tom in the middle. Let's try it again one more time. So that's just the low toms. It's the high toms right here. Let's put the high toms on right there. Maybe over here. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Yeah, right there. Boom. So I bury my toms. I push it pretty hard, and I like the sound of it. Same thing with the middle tom. Same. And you put it all together, and it sounds pretty cool. But this is just a middle tom, so yeah, keep that right smack dab in the middle. So when you're listening to all the toms, we have a symphony of tom work. Here we are. So you can hear the movement. You can totally hear the movement. So you add the overhead over that, and it actually adds a dimension, which I was going to bring up. You know, when you're recording a drum or when you're recording things, you want to create a stereo image. So having the overheads there creates a very nice stereo image. So let me just pop this on with the toms. I just want to keep the top end on the overhead, so I use a set of SE condenser mics over the top. And then I just EQ the top of it and put some transient soothing tools here, which is pants. Yeah, and I kind of add some air to that. I added a lot of presence and air. If you put more air, it just sounds so high end, but you put just enough and it works. Sorry, I gotta move around because the camera's right in my face and I can't really see stuff. So yeah, and I just stopped the track with my stomach. How's that one? So that's all the drums that is recorded for this song, and it goes a little something like this. Check it out. I did add an auxiliary bus, 2 auxiliary buses, one for reverb. So yeah, that's the over reverb, and then I have a parallel, so I can add a little bit more girth to the mix. Yeah, so that is the drums. So let's try that again one more time, bruh. We're gonna go back to this Ableton screen right here. So we have the drums going on, yeah? Bum, 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 bum. So now, we gotta add in the bass. So I did record the bass a bunch of times, but this was like the last take, and I was happy with it. Went for that Joe Dart kind of feel. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but yeah, Wolfpack Joe Dart. He plays like really busy, but not busy. It's just more of the feel. Anyways, so let's break down the bass here. So I got the bass running. So most people think the misconception is, oh yeah, just cut off all this low end, the high end, and this is how it sounds so cool. But in a mix, you can't really hear the bass if there's lows cutting off everything. So highs just lows just going off. See, just got totally lost. I'm feeling your body. Oh baby, it does sound cool. It does sound super cool. But let me see. So, yeah. I really like top end on the bass. You can, I played the notes with conviction. So I wanted to let that stand out. So I keep that growl. Basses have that growl. If you capture it correctly and you record it correctly, it has that growl. Shout out to UA, Universal Audio, for all their cool things, and I use that for my interface. So, yeah, the bass has that top end. And I was going for the old school tones. So I used my knockoff Ernie Ball bass. It's pretty bad, but it works really good with the sound. So I did do some compression. I like using that CLA. It's a Waves compressor, just to keep the sound tight and together. If you take off, things get kind of lost. Like the lower notes and the things that I didn't hit hard doesn't stick out. So you put a compressor on and it kind of squeezes everything together. So this is modeled after a LA3A compressor. So let's add the drums back in and bring that drums back in. And that's all the bass right there, bruh. Yeah. So now we're talking synth and pianos. Let's start with the piano parts. Pretty easy to point out. Since it is a very vintage sounding album and tried to make it sound vintage, I went along and I learned. I took a lot of I did some homework on what was used back in those days, and then I'm talking the days of like the 70s and the 80s, and a lot of the gear that was used was not so much primitive, but it was old school, and you had to put in a little bit more work into what you're doing with it. Nowadays, it's so easy to pull up a plug-in and just put things together. But and that's what I did. I totally did that. So the keyboard parts, I like I said, I mean, like I'll always say, like I'm not the greatest keyboard or piano player at all, but I know how to voice. I know how to draw out stuff on MIDI. So like this right here, this is all MIDI drawings that I kind of like played around with. Not saying that I didn't play it, but I kind of just did the voicings on it. So yeah, and this particular patch right here, this is the DX7, which is modeled after the Yamaha DX7. Yeah, and that's an old piano. It's a polyphonic piano, so polyphonic, monophonic. Polyphonic is you can use more than 8 keys, or you can play like a whole chord. And monophonic is just one note at a time. So these came out in the 80s. A lot of those old R&B songs use that tone. And they use the electric piano sound. So yeah, this was like really popular during those times. 80s actually, it was more 80s, early 80s, late 80s, and yeah. So this is that sound, electric piano. It was modeled after electric piano sound, and I'll show you the other electric piano, which is what a lot of the keyboard players back in the day used to use, the Rhodes keyboard. I have a Rhodes right here. I didn't want to play it though because I don't play that well, like I said. So this is the DX7 sound right here. Let's check this out. Here we go. Oh, I stopped it with my stomach. How's that? Pretty cool. Anyways, yeah. Yeah. So this is the sound of the DX7, the electric piano sound, which is very default. A lot of the old school artists that used to produce and make music, they used to use this sound quite a bit. I mean, I could probably even say like SWV's weak. Yeah, it's like more of a tweaked out version of that sound. That was more like a Korg, but anyways, yeah. So this is the sound of the DX7. Here we go. So that was cool. That's piano. Now let's get to the electric piano sounds. And like I said, I was talking about the Rhodes. So this is what a Rhodes look like. But this is a plug-in. This is totally a plug-in. So it's emulating the old sound um, as an instrument, so you can play with it. And I use this one for the background, kind of like a line. I call it like the naughty line, the boop 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 boop. Anyway, so yeah, this is the sound of that. Wait, let me go. Here we go. It has that like that Michael McDonald kind of feel, like would a fool believe that guy? Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's the old school vintage sound right there, the Rhodes piano. Okay, so let's move forward because this is going to be kind of a long section. But I'll make it short. So I learned a lot about synthesizers. Yes, synthesizers. And throughout the ages, it has changed. Like I said, polyphonic and monophonic. So these Jupiters, this is a Roland Jupiter. Yeah, but it's a plug-in version by Arturia, yeah, and it pretty much mimics the sound of the Jupiter 8, the old school Jupiter. Now you see all these knobs and stuff. When I first started getting into programming and doing, I would say, synthesis, looking at all of this really intimidated the crap out of me. Seeing all of these knobs. It's a lot of knobs. But yeah, just go ahead. Let's just walk through what's going on. Obviously, there's a volume right here. That's a volume. You turn it up and down. This particular sound, it was like a template sound, but it was more of just that sound. I wanted to get a different sound out of it, so I had to tweak it out to make it sound differently. Now, there's a couple things you got to remember with synths. There's oscillators, there's filters, and there's the envelopes, which is this side, and this is the filters. So VC filter, VC oscillator, and the envelopes here. So that one goes with these ones here with the filter, and this envelope with that VC1. VC2 controls that envelope, and it kind of combines here. So what we're talking about, the envelope, it says ADSR. So attack, decay, sustain, and release. So attack, you put more attack, you can hit it harder. No, sorry, backwards. You put more attack, and that's where it's gonna, the hit is gonna be a little bit more not let go, I would say. You put it down, and it would just do it real fast. So the attack would be really fast. Decay is how much is coming out. Sustain is how long you want it to linger. Yeah. So if you hold a chord and you press it down, it'd be like, the sustain would be like, either if you have it at a high sustain, it will go. Low sustain will go. Same with release, but release is kind of different. When you're using the release, it's when you actually let go of your keys. So you can adjust it to taste to get certain different sounds. Like this one, I kind of had the attack a little bit up, so I wanted it to move a little bit more. And it worked with the filter. Well, we'll talk about the filter. So it's high cut, low cuts, and the way that you work with the envelopes, if you hit the attack, it will attack one of these filters and it will go boop. And if the harder you hit, whack. So if you adjust it the way that you need to, yeah. So now we're kind of gone past that, just because I wanted to explain to you this whole situation with synthesizers because every synthesizer kind of has the same thing. It's just a different neighborhood. Anyways, so let me get this out of the way. Now let's listen to what was this is I think the wow 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 I think so. I'm not too sure. Let's hear. Yeah, that bow, 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 bow. So you can hear that I have some effects on that too, and on this Jupiter thingy, on the yeah, we have effects. So I think I threw some effects. No, the effects is on my auxiliary channel, but it sounds bouncy. But yes, this is the attack and release thing where I'm talking about, where it's like when I press the key, the amount of it and whatnot, and how it works together. So that's the sound that I had with that. Kind of adjusted it that way, and that's how I wanted it to go. What is this right here? Let's see. Oh yeah, so this is the horn parts. I actually didn't use that one, but it's still there. I was too lazy to um, I was too lazy to erase it. And mind you, a lot of the producers are gonna look at this and be like, "Why didn't you bounce out to wave?" I didn't want to. There's no rule. I can do whatever the hell I want. Anyways, so yeah, this is the horn part. We go. Here we go. It's popping up right about now. Yeah. So I actually had real horns in this area, but it just didn't sound right, and that's why I muted it. But yeah, the real horn sound just doesn't work for me anyway. Okay, so next one is it's like a rhythm part on the synthesizer, and I'm using the Profit sounds. I really, if I had money, guys, if you guys want to invest in giving me a synthesizer, yeah, it's the Profit. The Profit's bad. It's super awesome. I learned a lot just playing around with it, and um, yeah. So this is the sound of the Profit. But I like the brass sounds, and you can kind of like control it so it have that style on it. Here we go. Okay, so I'll just play around with this. So yeah. So if I open up the cutoff, it'll sound more wacky. And if I turn up the resolution too, but I kind of like that low. And if I turn on the attack, there's nothing. There we go. So that concludes my talk about the synth sounds. Wait, what is this? I didn't even look at what is this. Okay, let's check this out. Oh, it's the bell sound. I forgot about that. I had to keep in this bell sound, and that's from the Jupiter. I kind of used the preset on this. I really like this sound. Okay, so that actually concludes my talk about all the keyboards, pianos, and the synths that I used on this song, "Feeling on You." So, okay, we're looking at the guitars now. So guitars is pretty freaking self-explanatory. I have two tracks of guitars that I kind of panned out here and there, so it's slightly on the left and slightly on the right. And one of them is more of the rhythm track. So this is the rhythm right here. So that's the beginning. And then this is like the plucky tracks, or kind of the color track, I would call. And then there's a different part in the middle. I just did that. It's a little plucky. Plucky. And processed it, did some gating on it a little bit, and spreaded it out a little bit. So it's like going around the whole sound of the track. So You're so damn fine. You don't really hear it, but it's kind of a I would say kind of a color. You know, the guitar wasn't really the prominent thing in the track, but it is a color. So it's like okay, so that was the guitar tracks for Feeling on You. Oh, I'm just wrap this up and just go through it. I could go through all the vocal stuff, but it's personal preference. I know a lot of you producers, some of the producers, but I do this and do that, but I did what I did, and I like what I heard. So yeah, and that's the main thing, man. If you're making music out there and you're producing your own stuff, you know, people could tell you things, but just as long as you feel like the song sounds good to you, you're good. And yeah, the song talks about yeah touching a woman and asking for what you want. I think for the most part, a lot of us guys we don't really think about that. It's like we just do it, but like I think for the most part, like women really like hearing a man tell them what they want and do what they want. Anyways, yeah, that's Feeling on You. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm gonna just do more tutorials about the songs on the album. And just have a blessed day. Take care. Aloha. Yeah.